Colour mixing is one of those things that looks simple until you try it. Suddenly, finding just the right shade can feel like a mystery, one that takes time, patience, and just a little bit of intuition. I've been painting for over a decade, and in that time, I've felt that mixing colour is as much about feeling as it is following a formula. It's not about just following a rule. However, I've learned something new about colour mixing that has massively improved my painting. And in this video, I'm going to share exactly what that is. Hopefully the tips, techniques and insights that I mention in this video are going to make that process a little bit less complicated and a lot more rewarding. I won't actually use all of these colours in every single painting that I do, but it's nice to have them. Before I tell you what's actually changed in my work, let's have a look at the basic idea behind colour mixing. It's pretty simple, but also essential to fully understand the relationships between colours. Let's do a quick demonstration. We're going to start with our three primary colours: yellow, red and blue. I don't often actually use much red in my wildlife art, but it's still useful to have on the palette. We can mix the three primary colours to get secondary colours. Obviously, we all know that yellow and blue make green, red and yellow make orange, and red and blue make purple. The secondary colours are an equal mix of the two primaries. That doesn't always mean an equal mix of the quantities of paint, but more of an in-between equal colour. Sometimes you'll need more of one colour than the other to make the secondary. For example, when mixing a green or an orange, much more yellow is needed than the other colours. Then we have our tertiary colours, which are in between our primary and secondary colours. We can mix blue and purple to get a more violet colour, red and purple to create a magenta, and the same with the other colours to create lots of varying shades of red, orange, yellow and green. The more we mix the gradations between the colours, the more variations of each colour we get. Essentially, there are nearly infinite possible shades of each colour that we can make from those three primaries. But that's pretty straightforward, and also not the most helpful for painting, because we don't often paint with super saturated colours like this. We don't often have the need to create paintings with such vibrant and bright colours. So now we need to think a little bit more about the chroma of the colours, which is how pigmented and how vibrant a colour is, or how close to grey it is. Essentially, it's saturation. One way to reduce the saturation of a colour is to mix a grey out of black and white. That's the same value as what you want to mix. Value is how light or dark a colour is. You could then mix that grey with the colour that you want from the wheel to create a darker or lighter and less saturated version of that colour. However, I don't recommend using that technique all of the time, as it does produce a little bit of a flat colour, almost like pastel-like, which can be useful in some areas of a painting, but I wouldn't recommend doing that for the entire painting because it just looks a bit flat and boring. Another way to neutralise or desaturate a colour is by using its contrasting complementary colour. So to simplify that, we can look at our colour wheel and we can say that reds neutralise greens. So if we mix these together, we get sort of a neutral colour. We can mix oranges and blues to neutralise them, and purples neutralise yellows. If you use true complementary colours, you can create something known as a chromatic grey, which is much less flat and less pastel looking than mixing with a grey. To darken the value of a colour, some people add black. I'm trying not to do this as much anymore for the same reason why I don't mix with the grey: it flattens the colour. Instead, I'm trying to use chromatic blacks, so mixing two complementary colours to create a near black. For example, ultramarine blue and burnt umber, viridian green and alizarin crimson, dioxazine purple and cadmium yellow light. Each of those complements can be mixed together to create a colourful black, which can then be used to darken colours. The final outcome of that colour depends on the combination of black that's used. Experiment and try it out for yourself to see what you prefer. To lighten the value of a colour, you can add white. But bear in mind, that doesn't actually brighten a colour. You can't increase the vibrancy of a colour by adding white to it. White actually decreases the saturation as we get closer to pure white. You can actually see that as I move around the colour wheel, adding that white to those colours, the colours get lighter, but not brighter. The brightest and the most vibrant you can get is the pure pigmented colour. And that's just the basics of colour mixing. That's the stuff that you learn right when you're starting out art in school, and it's something that I just completely threw out the window. Sure, I had a basic understanding of colours, but the way that I used to mix my colours was a little bit more intuitive. I didn't think about the colours and their relationships with each other. I just saw a colour in my reference photo and then tried to match that with my paints. And that approach led to some really good paintings, but it didn't allow me to develop my own style, my own sense and understanding of the use of colours. And as I've been trying to get better as an artist and develop my own unique ways of painting, I've realised that if I don't have an understanding of the colours, then how can I create paintings and works that are recognisable as my own? If every time I'm trying to make a painting, I'm just trying to copy a reference photo that has been taken by somebody else, that it's been edited by somebody else, and those colours are different for every single reference photo I use. Whereas I want to be a little bit more consistent. But honestly, the best thing that I did was buy a book on colour mixing. And I'm not usually one to read books about art. I figure I can learn everything from watching people, and oh my god, how wrong was I? This book, Colour Choices by Quiller, has been an absolute game changer in my understanding of colour and the colours to use. It's all well and good having all of these bright saturated colours that you can mix with white or you can neutralise, but then how do you know which colour to use? And how do you know, with all of the different brands of paint, which colours to buy? For example, like a raw umber. Where does a raw umber colour fit on this scale? I mean, it'd be about here. A burnt umber might be a little bit sort of like more towards the orange side. A yellow ochre might be more up here. They're not fitting exactly in this outer ring of colours. So it's really important for new artists to understand where those intermediary colours, the ones that you buy from the tubes, fit on this colour wheel. And the book does exactly that. It is genuinely one of the best books for developing my art that I have ever read. He goes through all of the different colour combinations that you can get, as well as naming the actual brands and the names of those branded colours for the colour wheel that you're trying to create. So it's really useful to understand where like a yellow ochre or a raw sienna or a raw umber would fit on the colour wheel. And he goes through that all in this book, as well as loads of different techniques and different colour palettes that you could try out. And yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. If you, or you know anyone that is a budding artist, want to pick up this book, I am going to leave a link in the description, so please do go and check that out. I do genuinely believe that colour choices and colour palettes and using consistent colour palettes is really important in developing your own style of painting. I know that this hasn't been like a guide on painting colours, and it is just sort of like showing off this book, but I cannot stress enough how good this book has been for me, so I thought I would just share it with you. Thank you so much for watching this short video, and if you do buy the book, hopefully it helps you as much as it's helped me. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.